Human frees the alien girl from toxic roots, and the alien girl says the roots recognized his warmth. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main character. Ethan Miller was an ordinary guy, just like any of us. At 28 years old, he was more of a wanderer than a man tied down by responsibilities. He had a knack for adventure, often finding himself lost in remote places, searching for the unknown. On one of his journeys, deep in the forest of a distant, barely explored region, Ethan found himself in an area that felt strange, almost alien. The trees towered above, their bark rough and twisted, like something out of a dream, or perhaps a nightmare. The air was thick with an odd, unsettling energy. It was here, in the heart of the forest, that he found her, Lyra Xanthi. She was unlike anyone he had ever seen before. She had a presence that was both captivating and eerie. Her skin, a soft shade of green, shimmered faintly under the dim light. Long, dark hair framed her delicate face, and her eyes, though filled with an undeniable sense of fear, seemed to hold a depth of wisdom and knowledge that Ethan couldn't quite comprehend. But what struck him most were the roots, the toxic roots that wrapped tightly around her legs, binding her to the ground. They pulsed with an unnatural rhythm, as if they were alive, feeding off her energy. The roots seemed to understand the moment Ethan approached, tightening their grip as if trying to warn him away. Ethan, though startled, couldn't just leave her there. He knew that whatever she was, she didn't deserve this. With quick thinking and determination, he began searching through his backpack for anything that could help. He had no idea what the roots were, but something told him they weren't from this world. His fingers fumbled through his gear, finally pulling out a small, compact tool that he had never used before. It was a laser cutter. He wasn't sure if it would work, but he had to try. He aimed it at the nearest root, and with a sharp hum, the beam sliced through it. The root recoiled, and for a moment, Ethan thought he had succeeded. But then, something unexpected happened. The other roots began to react, tightening even more, as if they were aware of the danger. Lyra's eyes flickered with recognition, and for a brief second, their gazes locked. There was a silent exchange, a moment of understanding. Ethan's heart raced, unsure of what to do next, but he didn't have time to think. He kept cutting, faster now, trying to free her. As the last of the roots fell away, Lyra slowly stood up, her legs shaky but free. Her face was a mix of exhaustion and gratitude, and yet there was something more. A deep, almost mystical awareness. Ethan could feel it, the strange connection between them. Lyra's voice was soft, barely audible, but the words she spoke were clear. The roots, they recognized your warmth. Ethan didn't understand what she meant, but there was a sense of power in her words, as if the very environment around them had been touched by something beyond comprehension. She didn't explain further, but her eyes said everything. The roots had been more than just a physical trap, they had been a test. And Ethan had passed it, not with strength, but with something far more profound. I watched as Lyra slowly stepped away from the tangled mass of toxic roots that had once held her captive. Her legs were still unsteady, and I could see that the exertion had taken its toll on her. But there was something almost ethereal about her presence. The air around us seemed to shimmer, as if the very atmosphere had been altered by the release of those roots. I couldn't shake the feeling that what had just happened was more than a simple act of survival. There was something deeper at play. Lyra's eyes met mine again, and I could see a mixture of gratitude and something else, something unspoken. She didn't speak immediately, but I could feel the weight of her gaze. "Thank you," she said finally, her voice soft but sincere. "You freed me from more than just these roots." Her words left me puzzled, but I wasn't sure if I was ready to ask the questions swirling in my mind. Instead, I focused on her, trying to make sense of what was happening. "What do you mean?" I asked cautiously, unsure of how to phrase my thoughts. Lyra took a deep breath, as if weighing whether or not to share more. These roots, they were more than a trap. They were connected to me, to my emotions, to my very being. They can sense fear, pain, but also warmth. When you approached, I felt something I had never felt before. A sense of peace. It's why the roots tightened when you came closer. They recognized something in you. I was still trying to wrap my head around what she was saying. How could roots, or any kind of plant, recognize warmth? How could they sense emotions like that? I wanted to ask more, but I could see that Lyra was exhausted. She looked like she might collapse at any moment, so I didn't push further. Instead, I extended my hand to her, offering support. You need rest, I said gently. Lyra nodded, and I helped her sit down on a large rock nearby. The forest around us was eerily quiet now, the strange energy that had filled the air before fading as the roots had been destroyed. It felt like the tension in the environment had been released. As Lyra sat there, her eyes closed, I couldn't help but watch her. She wasn't like anything I had ever seen before, but there was a grace to her, an elegance that was hard to ignore. I had no idea who she was, where she came from, or what she had been through, but in that moment, I knew one thing for certain. She wasn't from this world. I had no idea how I was going to get her out of this forest or where we would go next, but something told me that our journey was far from over. Lyra opened her eyes and looked at me, as if she had sensed my thoughts. You don't understand, do you? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. I shook my head, not trusting myself to speak. The roots, she continued, they are part of a larger system. A system that I was born into. But it's dying. The planet I come from, she trailed off, her eyes clouding with sadness. It's dying. She repeated softly. The weight of her words hit me like a ton of bricks, but I stayed quiet, letting her process whatever she was feeling. I could see that she was battling emotions that were far beyond what I could comprehend. We sat in silence for a long time, the only sound being the soft rustling of leaves in the wind. I couldn't help but wonder what had brought Lyra to this planet. Why was she here? And what did she mean by dying? I wasn't sure I was ready to find out, but I knew that somehow I had become a part of her journey, and it was a journey that was going to change everything. I could see the weight of Lyra's words pressing down on her. She had a distant look in her eyes, like she was remembering something painful, something she could not yet share. The silence between us was thick, filled with a quiet tension that neither of us knew how to break. I wanted to ask more about her planet, about what was happening to it, but something in her demeanor told me that now wasn't the right time. Instead, I just sat beside her on the rock, letting her collect her thoughts. The air around us was still, but there was an almost electric hum, as if the forest was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. I looked around at the strange trees, their twisted trunks and pale leaves glowing faintly in the dim light. It was a beautiful place, but something about it felt wrong. How long have you been here? I asked softly, hoping to shift the conversation to something less heavy. Lyra blinked, as if my question pulled her from her thoughts. I don't know, she said slowly. Time is different here. It's not like where I come from. I've been here long enough to know that this world is dying too. Everything around us is fading. I frowned, trying to process what she was saying. So, your world is dying, and this one is too? I asked, struggling to connect the dots. Lyra nodded, her face serious. Yes, there's a connection between the two. I can feel it. My people, my planet, was once full of life, full of energy. But it's all slipping away. And now, I think this world is caught in the same cycle. Her words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of a truth I didn't fully understand. I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded, letting her speak. I was sent here because there's still a chance to save my world. But it's not just me. There are others, scattered across the universe, trying to find a way to reverse the damage. The roots, the toxic roots you freed me from, they're part of a much larger system. A system that's collapsing. I think I was meant to find you. I don't know why yet, but I feel it. My heart raced as I processed her words. You think I can help? I asked, the idea feeling almost impossible to grasp. Lyra's eyes met mine again, her expression serious. Yes, I think you're the key. The warmth you showed me, the way the roots reacted to you. There's something in you, something different. And I think it's connected to what's happening to my world, and maybe even this one. We need to figure out what it is. I took a deep breath, trying to process everything she had just said. The idea that I, just an ordinary guy, could be the key to saving a world, or more than one, was overwhelming. But as I looked at Lyra, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The beginning of something far bigger than either of us could imagine. Okay, I said, my voice steady despite the chaos in my mind. So what do we do now? Lyra stood up slowly, her legs still weak, but her resolve stronger. We keep moving forward, she said quietly. We find the others. And we figure out what's causing all of this. We don't have much time. I stood with her, the weight of her words settling over me like a heavy fog. As we began to walk, the forest around us seemed to shift, the air growing colder, the shadows deeper. I didn't know where this path would lead, but I knew that whatever it was, it would change everything. I didn't know how long we walked, but time seemed to slip away as we moved deeper into the strange, dark forest. The path ahead of us became more difficult to navigate, the trees growing closer together, their branches twisting like gnarled fingers, almost blocking out the sky. I kept my eyes on Lyra, watching her every step as she led the way. Despite her earlier exhaustion, she moved with a quiet determination, her every motion purposeful. I couldn't help but wonder what kind of strength she had to endure everything she had been through. How far are we going? I asked, my voice breaking the eerie silence. Lyra glanced over her shoulder, her expression calm but serious. Not much farther. The others are close, she said, her voice low, as if speaking too loudly would disrupt something. The others? I repeated, feeling the weight of the word. There are others like you? Lyra nodded, her gaze fixed ahead. Yes. They've been scattered, but we've been drawn together, pulled by the same force. We don't know exactly why, but we have to find each other. I felt a chill run down my spine at the thought. Other beings from other worlds, pulled together by some unknown force. It sounded like the beginning of something far bigger than I was prepared for. What happens when you find them? I asked, more to myself than to her. Lyra turned her head slightly, her eyes meeting mine for a brief moment. We work together. We've all been through our own trials. We know how to survive, how to fight, how to heal. But none of us can do it alone. That's why we need you. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Me? Why me? I was just a guy who happened to be in the right place at the right time. But Lyra had said something earlier, about warmth, something in me that had connected with the roots. Was that what she was talking about? Was that why she needed me? The thought of being the key to something so much bigger was overwhelming, but I didn't have time to dwell on it. I had to focus. What exactly are we looking for? I asked, trying to shake off the uncertainty that clung to me. We're looking for the source, Lyra said, her voice barely above a whisper. The source of what's causing all of this. The roots, the decay, the dying worlds. It's all connected. If we can find the source and stop it, we can save my world, and maybe yours too. Her words hit me hard, and I felt the gravity of the situation settling in. This wasn't just about her anymore. It wasn't just about saving a planet I'd never been to. This was about the fate of countless worlds. And you think I can help with that? I asked, trying to process everything. Lyra didn't answer right away. She stopped walking and turned to face me fully. I think you already are, she said quietly. You've already shown me something I didn't expect. Something I didn't think was possible. You have a light in you, Ethan. A warmth that's rare. And I think that light is the key to what we need to do. I didn't know what to say to that. A light? Me? I didn't feel special. I didn't feel like anything extraordinary. But as I looked into Lyra's eyes, I realized she wasn't just saying it to make me feel better. She believed it. And maybe, just maybe, she was right. I nodded slowly. Okay, I said, my voice steadier now. Let's find them. Let's find the source. Lyra smiled, and for the first time since I had met her, I saw a glimmer of hope in her eyes. It wasn't much, but it was enough to make me believe that maybe, just maybe, we could change the course of all this. We turned and continued our journey, the path ahead still uncertain, but now with a new sense of purpose. The world around us seemed to shift again, as if reacting to the newfound resolve in both of us. The weight of what we were about to face was still there, but for the first time, I felt ready to face it, whatever it was. I could feel the tension building as we moved further through the forest. The air was growing colder, the shadows longer, and the sense of being watched was more palpable than ever. Lyra led the way, her steps deliberate, though I could still see the faint trace of exhaustion in her movements. It was clear she was pushing herself, but I could tell she wouldn't stop until she reached her goal. I followed closely behind, my mind racing with questions I wasn't sure how to ask. What was this source she kept mentioning? What exactly was she hoping to find? And why was I involved in all of this? I couldn't shake the feeling that something much larger was at play here, and I was just a small part of it. How much? Farther, I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. Lyra glanced over her shoulder, her expression distant. Not far, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. We're close now. The others are waiting. The others? I had no idea what to expect when we found them. She had said they were like her, but what did that really mean? Were they like humans? Or were they something entirely different? As we walked, the forest seemed to grow denser, the path narrowing until it was barely wide enough for one person. I could hear the sound of running water in the distance, a faint trickling that somehow made everything feel even more surreal. It wasn't long before we reached a clearing. The trees parted to reveal a large stone structure, ancient-looking and covered in moss. It seemed out of place, as if it didn't belong in this forest at all. Lyra stopped in front of it, her gaze fixed on the entrance. This is it, she said softly. The others are inside. I looked at the stone structure, my heart pounding in my chest. It was unlike anything I had ever seen before. The stone was smooth, almost polished, and the intricate carvings on its surface seemed to tell a story I couldn't understand. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. Whatever was inside that structure, it was the next step in whatever strange journey I had found myself on. Lyra stepped forward and placed her hand against the stone. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a low rumble, the ground beneath our feet shifted, and the entrance to the structure slowly began to open. I stood frozen, watching in awe as the massive stone door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit interior. Lyra stepped inside without hesitation, and after a brief moment of hesitation, I followed her. The air inside was cool, but there was something strangely comforting about it, like stepping into a sanctuary. Inside, I could see figures moving in the shadows, their forms faint but clearly visible. As my eyes adjusted to the dim light, I realized they were all like Lyra, tall, slender, with skin that glowed faintly in the darkness. There were 5 of them in total, each one looking at us with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Lyra walked toward them, and I followed, feeling like an outsider in this strange place. The figures began to speak to her in a language I couldn't understand, their voices melodic but foreign. Lyra responded in kind, her tone calm and measured. I couldn't make out the words, but the exchange felt important, as if they were confirming something. When the conversation ended, one of the figures, a woman with silver-blue skin, turned to me. "Ethan Miller," she said, her voice soft but firm. "You are the one who came with Lyra." I nodded, unsure of what to say. "Yes, I'm with her." The woman studied me for a moment before speaking again. "You are the one the roots recognized." Her words hit me like a bolt of lightning, and for the first time, I realized how little I truly understood about what was happening. Lyra had always spoken of the warmth, of the connection, but now it was clear that something much deeper was at play. "The warmth," I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. The woman nodded. "Yes, the roots are part of a larger system, a system that has been dying for centuries. The warmth you carry is what has the potential to restore balance." I swallowed hard, trying to process her words. "Restore balance?" I asked, my voice shaky. "How?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she motioned for us to sit. The others gathered around, their faces somber. Lyra sat beside me, her hand brushing against mine in silent support. I still had so many questions, but one thing was clear. Whatever this was, it was bigger than anything I could have ever imagined. I sat down beside Lyra, trying to absorb everything the woman with silver-blue skin had just told me. The other figures, all of them like Lyra, were still standing in a loose circle around us. Their eyes locked onto me with a quiet intensity. It was clear they were waiting for something, waiting for me to understand. I could feel the weight of their gaze, but I still had no idea what was really going on. I glanced at Lyra, who seemed deep in thought, her eyes distant as if she, too, was struggling to put everything together. "The warmth," I said again, my voice more to myself than to anyone else. "What does it really mean?" The silver-blue woman spoke again, her tone steady. "The warmth you carry is not just physical. It is a resonance, a frequency, something that aligns with the life force of the universe itself. The roots recognized it. And it's why they reacted the way they did. It's why they let you free Lyra. I frowned, trying to wrap my mind around her words. So you're saying I'm connected to the universe? I asked, the thought feeling ridiculous even as it left my mouth. The woman nodded. Yes, but not in the way you might think. The universe is not just stars and planets. It is energy, it is life in all its forms, and it is bound by forces we do not fully understand. Your warmth, your essence, aligns with that energy. And if you can learn to harness it, you can restore balance. Her words seemed to hang in the air, heavy with meaning. But how? I asked, my voice cracking slightly. How do I even begin to understand something like that? The woman did not answer right away, instead motioning for us to follow her. I stood up slowly, unsure of what to do next. Lyra stood with me, her hand brushing against mine for a brief moment before she turned toward the woman. We will teach you, the woman said. But first, you must understand the nature of what you're dealing with. She led us to a large stone tablet that was set against the far wall of the chamber. The carvings on it were unlike anything I had ever seen before. Intricate, flowing patterns that seemed to shift and change when I looked at them. The woman placed her hand on the tablet, and the patterns began to glow, faintly at first, then brighter until they were almost blinding. This is the history of the system, she said, her voice now reverberating through the chamber. This is the knowledge we have gathered over centuries, passed down through generations. It is what we know about the roots, about the decay, and about the forces that are threatening to unravel everything. As she spoke, the carvings on the tablet began to animate, playing out scenes of distant worlds and civilizations. I watched, transfixed, as planets were born, lived, and died, their energies flowing in and out of balance. And then I saw it, the moment when everything began to unravel. A dark energy, swirling and consuming, spreading across the galaxy like a virus. The roots, the very things that had trapped Lyra, were part of it. They were a manifestation of this dark energy, feeding off the life force of the planets, choking out the light. This is the source, the woman said, her voice filled with sorrow. The darkness that is consuming everything. And it is spreading. I looked at Lyra, whose face had grown pale as she watched the images on the tablet. I could see the pain in her eyes, the same pain she had carried since I first met her. She was part of this. She was connected to it in ways I didn't yet understand. The woman turned to me, her gaze piercing. And you, Ethan Miller, have the power to stop it. I felt a chill run through me at her words. Me? I didn't even know where to begin. I was just a guy who stumbled into this mess, a guy who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But as I looked around at the others, at Lyra, I realized that maybe I wasn't the only one who had a part to play in all of this. How? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The woman gave me a small smile, though it was tinged with sadness. You will learn. We will guide you. She turned back to the tablet, and as she did, the patterns shifted again, showing a new image, a world, dark and dying, much like Lyra had described. The energy was waning, and the roots were creeping in, poisoning everything they touched. This is where it begins, the woman said softly. This is where you must go. I looked at the dark, dying world shown on the stone tablet, the gravity of the situation sinking in deeper with each passing second. The swirling darkness in the image was almost tangible, a thick, suffocating presence that seemed to consume everything in its path. It was hard to imagine that something so vast, so destructive, could be stopped. Yet, here I was, being told that I was somehow the key to it all. My mind raced as I tried to wrap my head around it. How can I stop something like this? I finally managed to ask, my voice betraying the uncertainty I felt deep inside. The silver-blue woman turned to face me, her expression unreadable. You have something inside. You that can disrupt this darkness. Something that the roots, everything, recognizes. It is a power that has been dormant, but it is awakening now. Your connection to it is stronger than you realize. The words felt like a heavy weight pressing against my chest. I didn't feel powerful. I didn't feel like I had anything special about me. I was just a guy who happened to stumble into something far beyond my understanding. So what do I do? I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. We will teach you, she said again, her voice calm, but with a sense of finality. We've been waiting for someone like you. The warmth you carry, It can heal the rift that's causing all this destruction. But you must learn to control it, to harness it, before it consumes you. Lyra stepped closer, her eyes filled with concern. We don't have much time. The darkness is spreading, and with every moment that passes, it grows stronger. If we don't act soon, there may be no stopping it. I looked at her, searching for any reassurance, but there was none. Her face, as beautiful as it was lined with the weight of years of struggle and pain. It was clear that she, too, understood the urgency of our mission. The others stood silently behind us, their faces solemn, their gazes focused. It was as if they were all waiting for me to make a choice. Where do we start? I asked, my voice steadier now. The silver-blue woman nodded, her eyes softening for the first time. We begin with you, with your connection to the warmth. You have to learn how to channel it, to bring it out fully. We can help guide you, but the power is within you. We've sensed it since the moment you freed Lyra from the roots. She raised her hand, and a glowing light appeared in the center of the room, hovering in the air. It was a soft, golden light, but there was something undeniably powerful about it. This is the energy you must learn to control, she explained. It is the force that balances all things. It is what keeps the universe in harmony. But if it falls into chaos, it can lead to destruction. You must learn to direct it, to focus it. I stood there, staring at the light, my mind racing. How could I possibly learn to control something so immense, something so powerful? But as I looked around at Lyra and the others, I realized that there was no other choice. This wasn't just about saving her or saving this world. This was about saving everything. Okay, I said, my voice stronger now, even if my hands were trembling. I'm ready. Show me how. The woman gave a small nod, and with a gentle motion, she directed the golden light toward me. As it drew closer, I could feel its warmth, but it wasn't just physical. It was something deeper, something that seemed to reach into my very soul, stirring something long buried inside me. I felt a surge of energy, and for a moment, I thought I might lose control. But then Lyra's voice broke through, soft but steady. Focus, she said, her tone a grounding force. Focus on the warmth. Let it fill you, but don't let it overwhelm you. I closed my eyes, trying to push aside the fear and uncertainty. Slowly, I began to concentrate on the light, on the warmth it brought. It was like nothing I had ever experienced. The light wasn't just external, it was part of me, a part of who I was. And with each passing second, I felt it growing, pulsing inside me, filling me with a sense of power I had never known. But it wasn't just power. It was purpose. It was the realization that I had something inside me that could make a difference. And in that moment, I knew that I had to learn to control it, to master it. For everything. You're doing it, Lyra said softly, her voice filled with pride. I opened my eyes, and for the first time, I could see the golden light swirling around me, reflecting in the faces of the others. I had no idea what the future held, but I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't alone in this. And together, we would face whatever came next. I could feel the energy swirling around me, the golden light pulsing in the air, filling the chamber. It wasn't just in the room. It was inside me, too, running through my veins, weaving its way through every fiber of my being. I focused harder, pushing aside the overwhelming sensation, trying to center myself. The warmth I had felt earlier now felt like a part of me, and for the first time, I understood what Lyra had meant. This wasn't something external I had to fight against. It was something within me, something I could control, if only I learned how. I closed my eyes again, taking a deep breath. The energy flowed in and out, like a heartbeat, steady but powerful. It wasn't a force I could bend to my will immediately, but it was there, waiting for me to understand it. Slowly, I began to feel the pull of it, like the light was an extension of my thoughts. Every movement I made with my mind seemed to make the light react, a wave of energy rippling outward. Focus, Lyra's voice said softly, like a whisper on the wind. Let it move through you. Don't try to control it. Let it guide you. Her words grounded me. I opened my eyes and looked at her, and I saw a flicker of something. Pride, maybe even hope. The others were watching too, silent but focused. It wasn't just me they were looking at. It was all of us. Each person in that room connected by something deeper than words. I took another breath, and this time, the light didn't just react to my thoughts. It flowed with me, moving as naturally as if it had always been a part of me. I could feel it stretching outward, gently, like the rays of the sun touching the earth. It was beautiful, peaceful, but there was still a weight to it, a responsibility I wasn't fully ready for. "You're doing it," Lyra said again, her voice filled with something new, hope. "Keep going." Her words were like a spark, fueling me. I concentrated harder, and for a brief moment, the golden light seemed to shimmer and grow brighter. I didn't know if I had control of it yet, but I could feel it moving with me, like a new sense of purpose waking up inside. The woman with silver blue skin stepped forward, her expression unchanged but softer now. "This is just the beginning," she said. "You've tapped into the warmth, but there is still much to learn. The darkness is still out there, spreading. It's not enough to just hold the light. You must learn to direct it, to protect it from the forces that would try to destroy it." I nodded, feeling the weight of her words. I wasn't ready yet, not by a long shot, but I knew one thing: I couldn't stop now. I couldn't let all of this, everything I had learned, slip away. "How do I learn?" I asked, my voice steady but unsure. The woman's eyes were kind, but firm. "We will guide you," she said again. "We've been waiting for this moment. For you. But you must be willing to embrace the light inside you. Only then can you truly begin to change the course of what's coming." I looked at Lyra, who smiled softly at me. It wasn't just a smile of encouragement. It was the smile of someone who had walked through darkness and found a glimmer of light. It was the smile of someone who believed that change was possible. "We're in this together," she said, her words simple but full of meaning. And for the first time since I had met her, I believed it. We were all in this together, Lyra, the others, and me. And somehow, despite everything that had happened, I felt ready. I was ready to learn, ready to fight, ready to face the darkness that lay ahead. The golden light around me seemed to pulse in response to that thought, like it had heard my resolve. And in that moment, I knew that no matter what was coming, I wouldn't face it alone. I stood in the center of the chamber, the golden light still swirling around me, feeling more connected to it than I ever thought possible. The warmth inside me had grown, spreading through every part of my body, making me feel lighter and more alive than I had ever felt. But it wasn't just the warmth. It was a clarity, a purpose, a realization that this was what I was meant to do. The voices of the others faded as I focused, the steady pulse of the light guiding me forward. Lyra stood to my side, her presence comforting but also a reminder of the weight we both carried. She had been through so much, and now she was placing her trust in me, in us. I felt the energy around me respond to my thoughts, like the golden light was waiting for me to give it direction. "What's next?" I asked, my voice steady, the uncertainty I had felt earlier now replaced by determination. The silver-blue woman, who had remained silent up until now, stepped closer. Her gaze was piercing, but there was a kindness there, too. "Now you must learn to direct the light," she said, her voice calm, yet firm. "This power, the warmth inside you, is connected to the balance of all things. It can heal, but it can also destroy if misused. You must learn to control it, to focus it on what is needed." She extended her hand, and the golden light responded, shifting into a shape that seemed to form an image of a world, broken, dark, with roots creeping over its surface. "This world," she continued, "is dying, and so are many others. The darkness is spreading, consuming everything in its path. But you have the power to stop it. The warmth inside you is the key to restoring balance. But it requires more than just control. It requires understanding." I took a deep breath, trying to understand what she meant. "Understanding what?" I asked, my voice hesitant. The woman looked at me, her eyes softening. "You must understand the nature of the balance you seek to restore. It's not just about light fighting darkness. It's about harmony, about knowing when to act and when to wait, when to heal and when to let go. The warmth you carry is not a weapon. It is a force of nature. And like all forces, it must be respected." The weight of her words settled in my chest. I felt the golden light pulse, almost as if it was acknowledging the truth in her words. "I don't know if I can learn all that," I said quietly. "I've only just discovered this power. It feels too big, too much for me to handle." Lyra stepped forward then, her eyes meeting mine with quiet strength. "You don't have to do it alone," she said softly. "We're here with you. We'll help you. We've all been through our own trials. And now, We face this together. Her words, simple as they were, had an undeniable weight to them. For the first time since this whole journey began, I felt like I wasn't just a bystander. I was part of something larger. You're not alone in this, she repeated. I looked at the others, standing in silence, their gazes steady, filled with a shared understanding. They, too, had been through their own battles. They had walked their own paths and survived just as I had. And now, together, we would face whatever darkness lay ahead. The golden light around me seemed to brighten in response to our collective resolve. I closed my eyes again, focusing on the warmth inside me, feeling it pulse with purpose. The energy that had once seemed so overwhelming now felt like a part of me, something I could shape, something I could guide. I didn't know how we would face the darkness or where this path would lead, but for the first time, I was ready. Okay, I said, my voice steady. Let's do this. Together. The others nodded, and I felt a quiet strength in the air, a promise of what was to come. We were ready to face the unknown. Together, we would find the source of the darkness and restore balance. And no matter what, we would not let it consume us. Not now. Not ever.